America currently stores 67,500 metric tons of spent nuclear fuel used by commercial nuclear reactors to generate 20% of all the electric power consumed in the U.S. America also stores many thousands of tons of legacy nuclear waste left over from production of nuclear weapons. The spent fuel was supposed to go to a repository at Yucca Mountain, Nevada for retrievable storage. The legacy waste was supposed to go to Yucca for permanent disposal. The U.S. has spent more than $15 billion in investigating, planning, and constructing the Yucca Mountain Repository. The Yucca Mountain Project was in the final stages of its safety license review. However, in 2009, President Barack Obama directed the Secretary of Energy to terminate the project, stop the funding, and close it down. As a result, more than 2,700 engineers and workers lost their jobs. This decision violated a law passed by Congress to build a nuclear waste repository in the U.S., specifically at Yucca Mountain, the Nuclear Waste Policy Act. It also wasted the $15 billion already spent on the repository. These wasted funds had been paid into a special nuclear waste fund by nuclear power plants from fees collected from their electricity customers. Nuclear energy utilities are the only energy generators required to pay for disposal of the waste they produce, although all energy generators produce waste. Now, the spent nuclear fuel and legacy nuclear waste, which has been specially processed for Yucca Mountain disposal, has nowhere to go. Spent nuclear fuel sits in indefinite storage at more than 100 reactor sites in 39 states, some of which are very close to American cities and major rivers. Legacy nuclear waste, some processed, some not, sits in aging tanks that are in danger of leaking into the environment. A few private citizens, states, and counties objected to President Obama's decision to terminate the Yucca Mountain Project as unlawful and politically motivated. They sued the president and some other government officials in federal court to try to hold them accountable to the Nuclear Waste Policy Act. They argued that no one can ignore the law, not even the president. Aiken County in South Carolina, which stores a large amount of spent nuclear fuel, was the first to file a suit against the Department of Energy. Bob Ferguson from Washington State led the first group of citizens to sue the President and the Secretary of Energy. His colleagues, Gary Peterson and Bill Lampson, also residents of Washington State, joined him. Later, South Carolina and Washington states also filed lawsuits, along with Nye County in Nevada, where the Yucca Mountain Repository is located, and the National Association of Regulatory Utility Commissioners. The U.S. Court of Appeals for the District of Columbia Circuit combined all of these similar lawsuits into one.
I just could not believe that the President of the United States would disobey the laws of this country. And when I found out that he was actively terminating Yucca Mountain by getting rid of the people, the facilities, all of the records, I couldn't believe what was going on. And after having been involved in this industry for all these years, I felt a personal responsibility, especially having grown up and lived in Hanford, where all this 50 million gallons of waste are stored, that we should continue to accept, on behalf of the government, excuses and delays. So I felt it was a personal responsibility that I had, and that to sue the President of the United States. It's kind of unheard of that anybody would do that. A private citizen would have to sue the President, but I felt I just had to because nobody else was stepping up at that time. Each of the reactors has a by agreement with the Nuclear Regulatory Commission the ability to store the spent fuel that is discharged from the reactors at the reactor location. This fuel is stored currently in temporary storage at each of the reactor sites. But until there is a permanent repository, the spent fuel would have to stay there, but the facilities in which this waste is stored was never intended to last for an indefinite period. So it is a safety issue as well as a security issue to continue to store this waste at these locations throughout the United States. Not only has $15 billion been spent on the licensing of Yucca Mountain, though the cost for not having a disposal facility continues because the utilities have been promised by the Department of Energy to take their waste. Because DOE has been unable to take their waste, they have sued the federal government. In all cases, they have won. And the costs are now projected to be in the billions of dollars. A DOE study suggested that the cost could be as much as $20 billion if we don't have a repository by the year 2020. The reality is that we don't know what the cost is going to be. It's unlimited until there's a solution to this waste problem. And the solution is basically to comply with the laws of the United States. And we have a law, it's on the books, and we want every member of Congress to insist that the president, whoever that might be, lead this effort in continuing what has already been started successfully and provide permanent disposal for this very important issue.
In the U.S., nuclear energy supplies 20% of America's power and has never had a serious accident or taken a life in our country. Electricity generated by nuclear power does not emit carbon or put greenhouse gases and other toxins into the environment that contribute to global warming and air pollution. Nuclear plants in the U.S. are operated carefully and safely. Nuclear power is needed for clean baseload power to support the continued growth of renewable energy technologies, which will help our country move away from fossil fuels and dependence on other countries for oil. The nuclear energy industry will not progress at a rate it needs to as long as the U.S. has no national nuclear waste program. Bob Ferguson has written a book called The Cost of Deceit and Delay. The book exposes the unlawful and unethical tactics used to terminate the Yucca Mountain Project that prompted him to sue the president, and follows through to the outcome of the lawsuit, which they won. The Cost of Deceit and Delay encourages discussion regarding the important recommendations made by the Blue Ribbon Commission on America's nuclear future, specifically its most urgent recommendation to create a new federal corporation to manage a new national nuclear waste program. You can order your copy of The Cost of Deceit and Delay at Amazon.com and other booksellers listed on the publisher's website, Crosby Ferguson Publishers, at www.crosby-ferguson-publishing.com. If you want to help, contact your elected representatives and tell them America needs a new national nuclear waste program.